Welcome back to Unleashing You. Today, I speak with Morgan Brubaker, the co-owner of Mod Mountain Boutique, a women's clothing boutique in downtown Castle Rock, Colorado, that also ships nationwide. She has an undergraduate and master's degree in apparel design and merchandising and has worked for profit and nonprofit businesses during her career. Morgan has an entrepreneurial spirit and a passion for helping women feel confident through what they wear. I can speak to that personally as a longtime customer of Morgan's. Plus, I watched many women shop at the Mod Mountain pop-up shop that we had at Unleashing You Live, and they began wearing their new outfits that same day. So they definitely felt confident in those clothes. In this episode, we break down exactly what Morgan has done to go from big dreamer to a thriving business owner. We'll also talk about trauma, mindset, action, and even a special gift to you for listening. Morgan's story is so moving and illuminates how each of us can create the dreams we know we're meant for. Let's dive in. Before we begin, I want to make sure that you have the Unleashing You retreat on your radar, because just the fact that you're tuning into this podcast means the Unleashing You retreat is right up your alley. The reason I created the Unleashing You retreat is because as women, we tend to look to everyone else for the answers. We somehow think that everyone else knows better than we do, when in reality, tapping into your own intuition is actually the key to living a happy and fulfilled life. And that's how I've created the career and life I have now, and what we'll teach you how to do during this retreat. An inner shift like this will leave you with tools that you'll use for the rest of your life. This retreat is so much more than a girls' trip. This is a transformation. If I've piqued your interest, I want to personally invite you to join us in Steamboat Springs, Colorado on September 19th through the 22nd. During our time together, we will go through coaching workshops and other deep personal development activities that will uncover aspects of yourself you never even knew. Work like this would take months or years to do on your own, and we're going to get you there in just a few short days. Not to mention, we'll be staying in a gorgeous mountain home, complete with a private chef, so you don't have to lift a finger. If you are ready for a pampering getaway where you can recharge your batteries and feed your soul, send me a message on Instagram or visit acrprofessionalcoaching.com to learn more and reserve your spot. Spots are very limited, so do not wait. And I'll see you in the mountains. Now, let's get on to today's show. Welcome to Unleashing You. This podcast is your permission slip to create success your way. I'm your host, Amanda Riffey, a certified success coach and female business leader who has climbed her way up the corporate ladder. I've been through burnout and back and found the tools to bring fun and enjoyment to my career while creating powerful results and leading in a way that feels authentic to me. This show brings you conversations with women just like you who have created massive success for themselves and are doing it in their own way. We'll hear about their personal journeys of growing their career while still prioritizing the things they love most. If you are ready to be challenged and encouraged to reach your next level, then buckle up, sister, because the road to dreamy success begins here. Let's dive in. Hi, Morgan. I'm so excited to have you on Unleashing You. How are you?
Hi, Amanda. I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic, and I am so looking forward to this conversation today. I know when you and I were talking before, I mean, we could have gone on for hours and hours. So I'm really excited to dig in with you today. I know your story is going to inspire so many women who have big dreams and are maybe stuck in that phase of actually making those a reality. So tell us a little bit about your story, your career journey, the business you have. Like, how did you get to where you are today?
So I grew up in a family that is very business economics oriented. That was something that was always of interest to me, but I also had this creative side to me that I needed to figure out how to balance. So I actually have my undergrad and my master's degree in apparel design and merchandising. And that's kind of how I found to marry those two together and have the business side, have the creative side, and kind of meld them together. So I love the business side of what I do. I also love just building relationships with women and helping them to feel confident, and working with clothing and apparel, accessories. All of that has been a really great way for me to help women just feel so good in what they wear. And even though it seems like something small, it can make such a big impact just on our confidence and the way we approach every day. So that has been kind of why I got into this industry. I have experience working for different nonprofit organizations as well as for profit. So I've worked for different places such as Nordstrom and Dress for Success, and I've kind of gotten to see all different sides of the industry. And starting in high school, it became a dream of mine to have a women's clothing boutique. And I never thought that it would be something that I would do at this age. I always thought it would be something fun to do in retirement, that I'd have, a 9 to 5 and a big career before all of that and taking off on my own. But after I finished my master's degree at CSU 5 years ago, I came down to Castle Rock and I saw that they were starting to develop the town quite a bit. And it just kind of sparked this opportunity in my mind for just a potential location to have a women's clothing store. And my mom and I were shopping around, going to all the Castle Rock shops back then that existed. And we always just felt like we wanted more when we were downtown. And I saw this new construction, just the wheels started spinning. And the next day I just went home, looked at the listing for the lease of the space, and sent an email to my mom and just said, "Do you want to open a women's clothing store?" And never did I imagine that she would really say yes. I didn't know it was a passion of hers. She's a retired accountant, so just we see things very differently. I didn't know if clothing was the passion of hers. And she just responded and said yes. And I was like, what do I do with this now? And a few months later, we were signing the lease, getting started on the whole process of opening Mod Mountain Boutique in downtown Castle Rock. And it just kind of caught me by surprise, actually, that it was something that came into my life at the time that it did. But we really wanted to open the store with the intention to just bring everyday clothing to women in Castle Rock. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel or, bring a style that doesn't relate to people. And so it's been really exciting to just kind of fill that spot in the market. We live in this bubble in Castle Rock. We never like to leave. So even going to the mall seems so far away. And so just having a place for women to come to shop, to build community, to build those relationships and just help women feel confident has really been so fulfilling for both my mom and I.
Yes. And I can attest to that as being one of the customers that came in. I think it was opening weekend or whenever it was when you all opened. and have been shopping there ever since. And I would say like every single time I step into your store, there's just that sense of feeling welcome, of community, like it's just like girls shopping and it's fantastic. And I absolutely love your store.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. One of the things I want to dig into that you said was around like, okay, you're just out shopping with your mom, maybe had a thought of like, oh, I wish there were more stores down here. And then that turned into the next day, sending your mom an email saying, hey, do you want to open a store, signing a lease, doing all of the things. And so I'm sure some people listening are thinking like, how the heck did you do that? And I know that's a question that I get all the time too, is like, weren't you scared? How did you push through that fear and actually take the action? Because so many of us might have had that thought or that dream as we're out walking of like, oh yeah, it would be really cool to open a store someday. But you actually took it one step further and took that first step. So can you walk us through that?
Yes. So I have to admit that I do struggle with a lot of doubt. I am a risk taker and always excited to try something once and see what comes of it. But I do struggle with the doubt. So I just want to put that out there because it is real. Like the fears are constant.
I'm glad that you said that because that's what makes that relatable, because I agree with you. Like everybody has the fear and the doubt. It's not that you see somebody doing something and it's because they're not scared or they're not doubtful, but it's then following that up with the action. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So I think what I try to do is throughout all of this over the last couple of years is always focus on the initial thought that I had and always also remember my why, because it's so easy for all of these little seeds of doubt to constantly just come into your mind and convince you that you should stop. And I think just throughout my life, I've become such a determined person that I'm constantly like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I feel like I have to have that kind of conversation with myself too. When I have that self-doubt is like, you know what? I know that voice is not the truth and I'm going to prove it wrong. And I'm going to focus on the initial dream that I had, because honestly, I think that one is always the truth. And if you bounce your ideas off of people, if you really take the steps to go through kind of the checklist of like, does this actually make sense? If it's a business, is this going to be profitable? Like there's all of that logistically, yes, you should make sure that your idea is good and that you feel confident in it. But I think after you've decided that, it's when the little doubts just continue to creep in. And I think the important thing is just believing in what you are meant to do and pushing all of that aside. I think I always see a direct correlation between the doubts that come into my head and my biggest insecurities. And when I can realize that and realize this is just me kind of losing sight of my confidence or my focus on what I'm trying to do because, I'm worried about if people are going to show up. I'm worried if people are going to like it or not. And that's not what I'm doing it for. Like I'm doing it for me and my purpose and my why. So when I feel confident in that, I can kind of talk to my insecurities and kind of talk them down a little bit. Not that it's easy, but I think being able to kind of look at what those doubts are and realize where they're coming from is really important.
And I actually, the day we're recording this, I actually just launched a podcast episode that I did that is around your intuition versus like your ego thoughts. And I think exactly what you just spoke to is exactly that. It's that first thought, that first exciting thought that you get. That's your intuition. That's your inner knowing. That's the, yes, I can do this. And then it's those thoughts that come later that say, are you sure you can really do this? Are you sure you're ready? Like, what if no one comes? What if no one likes it? I love that correlation that you made, because I think that's really eye-opening for people of when those thoughts directly correlate to your biggest fears or your biggest insecurities of yourself. That's your flag right there, that's more of a limiting belief than the truth, because it's such a direct correlation to the things that you are afraid of and the insecurities that you have. So I think that is just beautifully said with that. So you've told me a story before that I would love for you to share here, because you did a life project when you were in high school that has stuck with you to this day. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah. So back in my high school economics class, I think it was senior year, and our teacher had us do a life project where we're supposed to learn budgeting and all the important things, that go into life and buying a house, all of this, and create spreadsheets about how we're going to afford this dream life of ours and if it's a reality or not. And in that life project, I had forgotten about it actually for many years. And I was growing up in Southern California when I did this project. But my project that I did in high school said that I was going to be living in Denver, Colorado. I was going to own a women's clothing boutique. I was going to be driving a white SUV. And I found this a couple years ago, and I couldn't believe that it was my reality. Like, I had moved to a new state. I live near Denver. I have my women's clothing boutique. I drive a white SUV. Like, it was my life. And it really, to me, just shows like the power of writing down or speaking your dreams into life. Like, high school Morgan had no idea that this was the trajectory. Like, nothing was guiding me towards that at that point that I could see. But, there were things obviously working in my life that got me to where I am today. But I think it is really powerful. And when you had your Unleashing You live event and I was there and you had us speak life into our dreams, it really is so powerful. And I would really encourage people to do that. And whether it's written or spoken, just put your dreams out there, because they can become a reality. And you might be like me 15, 20 years later, looking back and being like, wow, I didn't really think I was going to get here, but here I am.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I absolutely love that story. And like you said, there's so much power in breathing life into our dreams, whether that's writing it down, whether that is talking about it to people who you feel safe with sharing your dreams with, people who are going to support you and continue to build that up for you. But it is amazing to me. And the more stories we hear on this podcast, and, when I work with clients and even in my own life, there's always a point in time where you think that is so far out in the future. Like, there's no way that would actually really happen. And then fast forward, whether it's 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you look back and you say, oh my gosh, like, this is literally the life that I dreamed about. And it didn't happen by accident. It might feel that way at certain times, but it happened because you had that vision and you continued to make decisions and actions that supported who you wanted to become. And that, I think, is just so key. There was something in your subconscious every step of the way that was helping you take action and helping you make decisions that's going to get you one step closer, one step closer, one step closer to that dream life. And now you look back and say, like, I created this. And I think that is so incredible. I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I wanted to quickly interrupt to invite you to schedule your own private coaching session with me. A standalone one-on-one session is the perfect avenue for those times when you need a kickstart towards your next goal. We can unpack so much in 50 minutes. You will leave your session feeling inspired, motivated, and with clear next steps that feel so aligned with you. These private coaching sessions are the quick hits that will uncover your mindset blocks and get you back on the fast track to whatever you're working toward in your career or life. Your session is your time, so we can work through anything that will impact you the most. Let me help you finally see your blind spots so that you can get out of your own way and head toward the next amazing version of you. Send me a message on Instagram or visit acrprofessionalcoaching.com to book your session today. Now, back to the episode. So you have another dream that just became a reality. And I know that one has significant meaning to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this actually was the dream that I shared with somebody at your event just, 2.5 months ago?
Wow.
And it had just become an idea to me at that point. And I was a little scared to share it with somebody because it is really vulnerable for me. And here we are 2.5 months later. And now as we record it, it's actually launching tomorrow. Once you hear the podcast, it will have already launched. But I started a new aspect of my boutique business, which is a line of jewelry that is laser engraved, handmade here in Castle Rock, that really is just an outlet for people to share their stories through jewelry, which I'm really excited about. So it's a new line. It's called BLB 23. And I started this as a kind of passion project because I lost my son in October, and BLB were his initials. He lived for 23 days after he was born. So that's how the brand came to be. And I received so many meaningful gifts when he passed away. And even a couple years before that, when I went through a miscarriage, so many meaningful gifts of jewelry that really have kind of gotten me through my infertility, miscarriage, infant loss journey. And it's kind of like when I spoke to the clothing and like how it can really impact our day. I feel that way about jewelry pieces as well. And so it just is like such a special way for me to carry a piece of my son with me every day in something I wear. And so that was something I wanted to create to share with others as well. And that idea came after a couple of sleepless nights after he passed away. Honestly, like when I grieve, I'm a sleeper. So I felt like if there were a couple nights where all I could do was think about this and lay in bed and just write my thoughts down, that it really was something that I should pursue, even though those doubtful thoughts have come back and I'm feeling them even today as we get ready to launch it tomorrow. But it's so meaningful for me. And I do think that it will really relate with others. And I'm excited for the stories that are going to be shared. And I always feel honored when people share their stories. And, these pieces, you can put words or meaningful dates or names or initials and give them as gifts to people who are going through something challenging, or get something for yourself that really kind of inspires you to get through whatever you're going through, or to celebrate people in your lives or remember people that have been lost. And so there's just such a big why for me. And I'm so excited to just see where this takes us and what's next, for the boutique and this together, and how that will continue to just solidify and build relationships in our little shop in Castle Rock.
And I will be there tomorrow supporting the launch of the line because I think it is just such a moving why behind that. And that is something that I love about you is that anytime we talk about a project or, something that you're working on, you always have such a strong why behind it. And you're always open and willing to be vulnerable. And I think that has been probably at the root of the community that you've been able to form through your businesses. I mean, your business is ingrained in the Castle Rock community. Like everyone knows Mod Mountain Boutique and everyone knows Morgan. And, there's just such a sense of connection to you and to your stories. And so I just thank you personally for being willing to be open and share that and then be able to take something, that is traumatic in our lives. I know you and I have talked about this before as well, and find something in there that we can use to move us forward. Everyone has an experience that has changed our lives forever. And I just think it's so beautiful the way that you take those things and say, okay, what can I do with this to, remember and continue to move forward in a meaningful way. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what tips or advice would you have for listeners who are hearing this conversation and they're feeling inspired to take action on their own big dream?
So my husband and I, we always have the conversation around everything new, looking at it from the perspective of every door is open until it is closed. And I think that perspective has really helped us move forward in life and not be closed off to what the possibilities are that are in store for us. And I think it's just really important to just be confident in pursuing your dreams. And I don't want to be the person that looks back and says, what if I had tried that? Or maybe I should have done that back then. Like, I just don't like to live my life that way. And I think I've had to shift my perspective a little bit on what failure looks like in choosing to live that way, because it's easy for that doubt to come back. Like, but what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? And I think what's important to remember is that success might not always look the way that you think it will. And that's just a part of life. Like what we think will happen is not always what comes to be. But I think everything you try is successful because it helps you get to the next thing that you were meant to be doing. So maybe it didn't turn out exactly the way you wanted, but I'm sure that there was something that came out of that, or a lesson that you can look back and learn from that gets you to that next big thing or a new dream. And I was actually talking to another business owner about this recently, where circumstances in life have changed for her, and she just she feels like a failure because she doesn't want to pursue her business. And I just told her, like, it's not a failure. Like, you did it for that time and that place, and there was a reason for you doing that at that time. And if your priorities have changed and you're moving on, it's not failure. It's just a new phase and season of life. And so there shouldn't be any regrets, right? For doing it or for choosing to move on from it. So I think that has just been, just kind of like my mindset around that and around taking leaps of faith is just give it a try until it's clear that it's not meant to be, and just stay true to what you really feel called and led to do. We don't have the answers for everything, and we never will. It's just taking the leap. I don't know.
It is. And then being okay with the pivot. And I think, again, we like to, or we not maybe we like to, but we think of that as I failed at this, or, I'm not seeing this through, or whatever the case may be. You might be meant to pivot and to do something new at that point. And just like you said, everything serves its purpose in that season of your life. And everything is bringing you to that next thing that you are meant to do, or that next person that you're meant to impact. I think you're totally right. In fact, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, I do an exercise with my coaching clients around future self, and that's a 10-year in the future vision. And some people really struggle with that because they feel like that's locking them in. I have to know exactly what I'm going to be doing in 10 years. And that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is to give you, that vision of who do you want to become, and then let life fill in blanks along the way. It doesn't mean you have to commit to, I'm going to be doing this exact job in this exact place, all of those things, because you're right. We can't predict the future and we don't know what's going to come, but we can continue to move closer and closer to those things that light us up, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So where can our listeners find you if they're like, I need to connect with Morgan after listening to this conversation?
So the best spot is Mod Mountain Boutique on Instagram. And we also are Mod Mountain Boutique on Facebook. We are just launching our new Instagram, BLB23 Jewelry. And that is actually where I'm going to be sharing a lot more about my personal life and my story, because that's really going to be focused on storytelling, not just mine, but other people's as well, which I'm excited about. But if you love all things clothing related, Mod Mountain Boutique Instagram is a great place for that. And then we also have our website, modmountainboutique.com. So you can shop locally in Castle Rock. We also ship nationwide. And if you do want to shop the jewelry line, that is on that same website as well.
Perfect. I love it. It's just so easy. Like everything's right there. And then I hear that you also have a special discount for listeners of the show. So tell us about that.
Yes. So we'll be offering 20% off of a purchase through the end of May. So you have the month of May to shop with us, and that is valid on our website. So you could use it towards clothing, the jewelry as well. So 20% off one purchase with the code UnleashingYou20.
Perfect. I absolutely love that, Morgan. And again, like you said, you ship nationwide. So even if people are listening to this and they're not based in Castle Rock or nearby, I've bought online from you before as well. So anyone can take advantage of that offer. So again, Unleashing You 20, and that will be valid through the end of May. So Morgan, thank you so much for sharing your story, for coming on the show today, and just inspiring all of us. I appreciate you.
No, thank you, Amanda. It was an honor.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you'd like to continue this conversation, connect with me on Instagram and say hello. You can find me at AmandaRiffy_coaching. In the meantime, if you know you are ready to step into the next incredible version of you and want to completely accelerate your personal and professional growth, let's work together. I offer one-on-one private coaching as well as workshops and in-person events. There's really something for everyone. To learn more, visit my website at acrprofessionalcoaching.com or send me a DM on Instagram and start a conversation. And don't worry, I truly want all of us to succeed. So I promise I will never steer you wrong. Let's create a career and life you love. Chat with you again soon.